Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And take that away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to a special holiday and quarantine version of Protonic. It's a holiday. It's a pandemic. It's a pandemic-styled holiday. Take of that what you will. But here's another show. Excited to bring this to you a different time. This is a Wednesday at the current time of this broadcast. But it doesn't matter what time it is because I'm going to have a guest that is known for time traveling. Is known for time travel, if you can believe it. Mr. Brian Teasley, a.k.a. Birdstuff of the mighty band Manor Astro-Man. Also from Servotron, Causey Way, the Saturn. So many awesome things. Did time in St. Vincent. I think he's even here right now. Hi, Brian.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Coming in loud and clear.
This is further along in the technological realm than Manor Astro-Man ever got. We got to about like 1998 technology.
And just stopped, huh?
Just stopped, yeah. Actually, we felt really revolutionary, you know, because when we started the band, we were touring before, you know, we were basically it was a big revelation when we could do like have any kind of downloadable maps that wasn't a random map.
Absolutely. That was a game changer, man.
But when we really felt ahead of the curve, Sharp, the electronics company, made a thing called Pocket Mail. And you should look it up on YouTube, and I encourage your listeners to do so as well. But it was like kind of a personal organizer, you know, like where you would store numbers and different things. But it had a flip out, kick out little speaker that would send an analog fax signal through a payphone. And you would like type your emails in before you go to a payphone to do this.
Oh, and then it would send them all at the same time. Yeah.
It would send them kind of like a fax machine, download it to this little personal organizer. And there was a while when we were like turning on other bands, like I think like Superchunk and Low and a few other bands. Like we felt like we were like changing the world.
Yeah. Well,
we didn't though. Just if you were wondering, we did not change the world.
They didn't. You could do Arrested Development voice for that, I guess, if you wanted to.
Right.
Well, and even, you know,
the band or the TV show.
Whoa, ooh! I was thinking TV show, but yeah, you know, that's kind of what
because I can't do either. So
yeah.
But I was still checking.
I kind of came in a little bit later than you guys, but I definitely remember going to the library to use the internet and like just get like the weirdest looks and like, you know, like whatever Poughkeepsie and whatnot. Like what are these guys up to? Like what are these kids trying to do? Do they live around here? And then, you know,
right,
uploading the tour diaries through email after you put the diskette in or whatever.
Yes. Yes. You know, when we first started, we were using a Kai S950 sampler on stage to play various little bits of, you know, our sounds and B-movie dialogue and things like that. But it would take, I don't know, 50 seconds to load a new disc, and the storage wasn't that mind-boggling by any means. So these weird little breaks in the songs where we'd have to just like, hey, let's wait for this thing to load. And I think it was like our second or third European tour, and the button that loads it broke off, and often Coco, who is the person that controls that, would have to like borrow somebody's keys in the crowd to be able to be able to dig into it to do it. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of this budget rot for you.
You guys use the back to basics software that was the Operation Reinformation guys.
Right? that wasn't quite there yet. There's a yeah, you're right. There was a some super corporate nerd cowboys out of Pittsburgh named Operation Reinformation that Coco was part of for a bit, that built a software program called Back to Basics. And there's hardly anything on the internet on them, but if you can find anything, it's super cool. They all wore like suits and cowboy hats, and it was 4 people playing the loudest music I've ever heard with guitar straps with keyboards. I mean, like keyboards as in typing.
Actual, yeah, like ASDAF Jekyll keyboards you type with a computer on. Yeah, that's probably the easier way to say that, rather than announcing home.
But that said, they could swing them around like ZZ Top always wished they could.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, the first time I saw that act was with you guys, and I was taken aback by the fact that they basically made you guys look like a bunch of jocks.
That's wow. Nobody, that feels great. Nobody's ever said that. It kind of feels like it feels like this is the first moment in my life where I haven't been on the side of like ogre yelling nerds at me. I actually am bowing up a little bit, feeling kind of tough now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, I heard from a reputable source that you had a good movement on your fastball as a kid, and you touched 90 in high school.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I did. I was bred to be a baseball robot for sure, and then it never did really kind of suit well because I hated it. I just happened to be really good at it,
right?
And then like punk rock kind of took over my life, and they coexisted for a little bit, but at the beginning of college that kind of fell apart.
So how early did you start in? Because you told a couple tales when I saw you in Milwaukee. It's actually one of the last shows I saw before lockdown, which I'm really glad I went to it because we just gotten back ourselves, and I was like, oh, I really want to go to a show. It's like, yeah, I want to go to a show. But you told some great Milwaukee back in the day stories, and it kind of occurred to me that the more adult Manor Astro-Man is sort of, you're obviously very much still bought into the projection of the characters of Manor Astro-Man, but there's a little bit of a blurring of the lines that has allowed to tell some of the more interesting or ribald stories. In fact, there's a very interesting one about Milwaukee specifically that I remember.
Yeah, I feel like at this point in our career, we're kind of doing like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a TV show that actually does this. Kind of like the Jerry Seinfeld thing where the show's actually called Seinfeld, but he's still kind of a version of what probably Jerry Seinfeld is like in real life. That's kind of where we are right now, I think. We're just like, we're still the characters, but we're just, our names are just in the title of the show, if that makes sense. which it actually doesn't. But point being is, I
think that was
Milwaukee,
tour, though.
Milwaukee, Milwaukee is always been fun. I'm trying to like think of all the places we played. Shank Hall, right? A million times. There was a place in the late 90s we played several times called the Globe. What's the place? The Rave? Is that one?
The Rave, yeah. That's. I mean, I'm a transplant. I'm actually from Oakland, California, but used to play all the time. Right. So I know if you're going to talk venues, it sound like I really know what I'm talking about because
then like Atomic Records, and then like a couple DIY shows that were really cool, and some DIY spaces. And then one time we played like the theater place. It's a little bigger. Has a marquee.
Turner Hall?
I think that was it. Yeah,
that place is awesome.
I think that's kind of the gambit of everywhere we played in Milwaukee. And then of course the last show, which was super fun. That was a super fun show. That was my favorite show on that COVID without knowing it tour.
Yeah. It was the Collectivo back room. Yeah, and it was still like 2 weeks out before it was like, oh wait, what? What's going on? What's happening exactly? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, like we didn't even think like we're in Brooklyn and Detroit and Milwaukee and Chicago and Philly and Pittsburgh, like right in the middle of out there. So with like 500 people breathing in a room and spitting on each other.
Right.
No, it wasn't necessarily. This wasn't like an agnostic front concert in the early '80s, so I don't think people were actually spitting on each other, at least not on purpose.
No, but it's close quarters, and it's almost like have you had the condition where you watch an older movie and you're like, oh my God, they're so close to each other. Why aren't they wearing masks? It's like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I own a music venue here in Alabama, and I've gone back and seen footage of bands playing, and I'm like, why isn't everybody wearing a mask at that show? So it's very weird. Oh, and by the way, speaking of which, I'm going to put my charger in. The reason why you can't see me right now is because my phone is dying, and I'm just charging it now, but the only way I can do Zoom when my phone's dying if I put you in the toaster and kind of use it as like a stand for my phone.
So you're still using the low tech for the high tech. Nothing's changed.
Yeah,
man.
see, I've been doing like a couple times just being in music venue world. I've had a couple Zoom meetings and had to put like without telling anybody. I'm you're sitting in a toaster,
I'm gonna put you in slice 2 so you can get a better view.
I was sure I was at least smart enough to unplug it,
right?
Before my phone got fried. So at least I'm that far ahead of the curve.
The video is a nice to have. It's certainly not a requirement. This is an audio enterprise, so you're all good, man. It's much appreciated that you're doing it at all.
Yeah, maybe at the very end, like we can film my cat. We'll figure it out.
There you go.
Maybe I'll be charged up by then.
Something to look forward to. Some bonus content, if you will.
How are you doing? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah?
Yeah. How's life for you?
Getting by, man. I mean, I think it's a weird time to be a person with any amount of empathy whatsoever right now, let alone anyone creative, bouncing off the walls.
Right. It's a strange time to be on planet Earth in general.
Yeah, I mean, how are you doing with the quarantine stuff? I mean, again, I've had some folks on that I have loose associations with venues, but like owning a venue is like,
right.
Wow, yeah, it's like, why don't you just punch yourself in the dick right now? Because that's about the same level of.
Believe me, I have. But the I mean, choosing like kind of the strange trajectory of my life to be like one half of it is like playing in a band and touring, and the other half is running a music venue where touring bands come play. It's not the most pandemic-proof plan, I've learned.
How did you come to go with the Saturn? Was it just like you wanting to take what you learned about what made a good or bad venue and kind of do it right? Did you have some yearning desire for that? It's kind of what I feel is like kind of revenge against the music industry or the live music industry.
Yeah. In the sense, okay. I mean, outside. Well, here's what I mean by that. Outside of, Man or Astro-Man, I played with other bands and things, and like I ended up for some strange reason spending 3,400 days of my life playing shows in various crazy places, and it's can be great. And there's a lot of venues that I love so much, but it never was exactly how I wanted it to be, and I was being like, I'm going to make it work one time and just like have a really nice apartment for bands to stay overnight so they don't have to
that's amazing.
Deal with that and have it super easy load in. We load in right to the stage and have everybody be nice and not be grumpy and have it sound good and good acoustics in the room. And I just was like, it's kind of like my way to make sense of the blur of touring for 20 something years.
Well, certainly, because there's certain things that you see over and over again, and certain easy mistakes that would be correctable if anybody, in some cases, even gave a damn about correcting them. And in other cases,
and I mean,
just not. But
yeah, and really, like, like from everything from Jabberjaw in the early 90s in LA to the Vera and Groningen. I mean, it's Saturn, the venue I run, is just amalgamation of stolen ideas of other good clubs and things they did, just kind of mashed together. But it's still interesting to go on tour and kind of see the good and bad and be like, wow, and I'll nerd out. I'll go to a place like and see like, wow, I really like the way they have their mic stands hung.
Really drilling
everybody
down,
everybody else in the band is like, dude, what are you looking at over there? Why are you crawling around behind the stage? It's like I want to see how they have their power distributed here, or see how they're running the three-phase.
Do they have it? Yeah, exactly. Do they have it on a 20 amp? Is it? Do they move up to a 30?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pathetic, but I've kind of become a connoisseur of music venue world for whatever.
I mean, I don't think it's pathetic
reason.
at all. I wish that every venue owner put like 1/100th of that effort.
Believe me, it is. Believe me, it is.
I mean, I think it's laudable in the fact that you're doing something with it to kind of make a place that. And it's funny you mentioned Jabberjaw. That actually came up last show. I had Eddie from Distorted Pony and Leopold, and we were talking about Jabberjaw, and it's sort of like. It seems like there's always that place that's like the place that's the welcoming refuge on tour or whatever, where the weirdos are allowed to do their weirdo thing.
Yeah, well, there was just no all ages place to play in LA, and we at the time besides there, and we needed a place because we weren't old enough, because we're not over 21 at the time. And actually they're doing a documentary. We were out there not long ago, and I did a segment, and I told a story on there that I'll ruin by telling now on the radio if you want me to, or not on the radio, on whatever this is. The pocket are we on Pocket Mail?
Yeah. We're on Pocket Mail. We're gonna upload this after we get some internet. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So prepare your fat signals. But it was just a place where the people were so nice and the crowd was so fun. But like there was barely any, they may have had like a residential air conditioning unit for like a baby's room in there, and it would always be like 104 degrees. And I remember one time, just like if you're a drummer, and this is just some advice, and I'm sure a lot of people that are drummers have a good bit of experience with this, but if you're going to puke while you're playing drums, it's best, and I learned this after a bit, to aim away from the hi-hat pedal and the kick pedal, because like depending on what pineapple particles and things that are on there, and yoo-hoo chocolate milk, whatever it's looking like, it's pretty slippery to try to continue to play your kick drum. And I just remember it's like looking down, there's like so much puke on my kick drum pedal. I think it was just because of the heat, and I was like, all right, this is what we're doing. And it was great, and it was awesome, because that's just that was the vibe there. And that's the biggest thing about doing music venues is there's places, I mean, this is kind of what I've told my staff, is there are places that have $1 million PA system that but $1 million PA system costs $1 million, and being nice is free.
Yeah,
and just like having good people, because I'm still amazed sometimes you go into a place and like there's nobody there quite yet, and like proper venues, and there's a grumpy bartender that doesn't even want to tell you where the stage is or where the backstage is or where to load in.
You're getting like attitude at the jump, like where it's like, what? Okay, sorry.
Right, and it's like,
sorry, I'm asking
my
you
thing
these
is always
easy
like,
questions.
like, hey, this doesn't. I know, contrary to the way the whole music industry's been like kind of like grown up, but like it honestly does not have to be an adversarial situation. Like, you guys want to have a good night, we want to put on a good show. The better show we put on, the better night you have, and it looks better for it. Like,
the rising tide lifts all boats. Come on,
yeah. It's like, how about this? How about we all work together so that the people that pay their hard-earned money can have a good time?
You think that'd be more common? Yeah.
and there are great places. I'm not saying that there aren't places that do that really well. It just blows my mind when when there are places that don't do it at all.
Because when a place is like welcoming and a place has like they're like happy you're there, there's an engagement, it's very clear that everyone's on the same page rather than just like the resting sullenness. Like that's almost more important than the aforementioned $1 million sound system that you mentioned before. It can actually turn like a a cafe corner into an arena as far as vibe goes, because it's all about the show. It doesn't matter what the gear is. I mean, it does if it's substandard. Okay, that's a challenge for sure. But you can have some of the best shows that way, and so that's.
Oh yeah. Like there's been times where like, just because most of the sound guys we've had over the years have been really nice, and like we've come in and there's been all kinds of screwy stuff with the PA, and we do our best to help fix their PA for them and then play the show. And that's the kind of thing. It's like, let's just make this work the best we can, whatever is the situation. But I do like a super shitty, messed up situation or a show too, because like we kind of, I say this expression, I shouldn't speak for the other people in the band, but like
we can throw a disclaimer up.
Right. So but they've heard me say it a lot, at least, where like we've kind of sort of seen every shade of shit possible, but every once in a while still they'll be like, whoa, look at this rare gem of a chartreuse looking turd we're playing tonight. Like, this is something new. Like, we're underneath the girls' gymnasium at some land grant college, and there's urine leaking on our heads when we're trying to write a set list, and like, this is golden.
Literally
golden was a bad expression for and I love like lame promoter excuses for like bad shows. And one of my favorite ones is we played, like, it was like an all ages space in Tucson, not Club Congress. That place is really awesome. People there are great, but it was way back when. And there wasn't many people out, and which is fine. But the promoter said that because it was an all ages place, report cards had just came out, and the kids didn't do very well that 6 weeks, and a lot of people got grounded. And I was like, man, that is the best bullshit I've ever heard for you not putting up flyers or our band not drawing people or whatever.
Come back on a Friday, man. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We need to get you guys back in here.
Yeah.
But I love stuff like that because, it's just like we kind of are used to everything. I'm sorry I'm talking so much about live touring and venues. I think it's just because it doesn't exist right now.
Right. Well, yeah. It's still it's of interest. It's of interest to the listeners of the show as well as me. So believe me, it's a problem. I'd be like, enough.
I get a lot of bands send out like I'm sure probably a lot of your listeners are in the music world. But like, if you haven't been in a touring band, if you have, this is going to be super boring. But I'll kind of give the behind the scenes to the making of the Thriller video here. Anyway, is the like you'll get at a venue, you'll get like a rider for what the band needs, and that includes like technical specifications as well as like any kind of basic food, drink, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you'll do an advance maybe with a tour manager or one of the band members and kind of figure everything out. But like a lot of times the advances and also the riders are written really aggressively because there's been this arms race where people feel like, we're going to ask for way more stuff than we get because we never even get it anyway. And like, and also the tone of like tour managers, like advanced emails are like kind of aggressive and weird, and it'll be stuff like, we must have 16 feet clearance floor to still for our giganto banner that we're going to be hanging, and it like very like, or no substitutes. I love that one, no substitutes. And so I took time to like kind of ride ours where it was like it like literally says, hey, we've been doing this for a long time. We're super easygoing. Like, if you can provide some very basic things like some hummus and like a tiny bit of beer as a bottle of water and things backstage, and just make sure you have this stuff. That's all we really need, and we're flexible on if there needs to be a local opener or anything. Like, and I've had people at clubs is like, why are you guys advanced written that way? Like it's like literally the only one that I know that's kind of like, besides like, I don't, the other people that I've dealt with, and I'm kind of veering into another subject, but the only people I've dealt with that have had something like that are like Mike Watt or any of the Fugazi guys. And when I've done shows for any of those kind of folks, theirs is kind of, in that same vein.
Well, yeah, because there's certain things that you think would be standard, right? Like, one we used to have was just a place that changed strings. That's, you're not in anybody's way. Like, you shouldn't think that would be like a big ask, right? Like another one I remember is house music shouldn't be as loud as the bands. That's
right.
That's another one. Like stuff that like should be reasonable.
Is that the standard? we've been saying the wrong thing. We're like, play the house music twice as loud as our band. See, I need to listen to the show more.
Well, but I think it's something where I think it's somebody you guys are coming at it from a kind of a workman. Like, I think you're not trying to be prima donnas or anything along those lines, but it's almost like you said, the whole idea of like you ask for the moon and then like you get an asteroid instead.
Right.
That gradation of scale. Like everything's got to be bargaining Pawn Stars or something.
But please, let it be like an asteroid with no Bruce Willis or Ben Affleck or.
That freaking turd of a movie was on lately. I actually saw more of it than I probably should admit, and I was like, "This is like propaganda for."
How does it hold up? There's a Criterion version of it.
Oh my god!
That's probably got a lot of, Easter eggs and commentary tracks. I'm gonna send me your address, like off the pocket mail, and I'm gonna get you a copy of that, the Criterion version. Send it to you.
Of Armageddon. What?
Yeah, there really is one. Look it up.
So. The thing is, that movie's so long already. I never have once been like, hey, there needs to be more of this. Maybe like more stuff on the oil rig or something. What are they going to throw in that's more? I mean, it's already so like Chloe and Michael Bay-ish with everything.
Right.
I mean, and there's things like the Steve Buscemi character like just goes space mad for like no reason just because it serves the plot for him to do something stupid. Like, I mean, it's typical Michael Bay stuff, but.
Yeah, how there's always like the director's cut version?
Yeah.
That's one of those films that I wish there was a director's cut where it's like a 16-minute version where as soon as they find out an asteroid hits the Earth, it actually hits the Earth and everybody just dies and then screen goes black and you see the credits.
They all died.
Like, I wish there was a director's cut like that. Yeah,
that'd be the people's cut.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a great name for it.
Well, speaking of asteroids and not a Bruce Willis too. At some point, I would like to actually talk something about the records too. I mean, you guys, Man or Astro-Man alone has a very long and storied discography, of which I celebrate.
This is a Man or Astro-Man interview. I'm so sorry.
So you guys started fairly young, right? And then there was a lot of singles. There's like the EPs, but the first record, which I think is Estrus, right? Is it Man or Astro-Man, if I remember correctly? Fact check me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that was like the first like LP, like in a full like whatever 14 songs or however many songs. Like people in the 90s used to put like 100 songs.
Totally. Like so, how many will fit on here?
That was the first like.
Throw on 17
It was our
more.
first long playing, whatever long playing in the 90s record means. So
right, which is to say that there was well, and also like the songs for the most part weren't necessarily epic length too, so you could fit quite a few more of them. But that's the one that they there was it kind of had the Richard Powers looking cover.
Yeah, it's not a Richard Powers looking. It's actually a Richard Powers cover that Art Chantry got to use that from his estate. Art Chantry's a really amazing. Like if you know much about graphic design, you know who he is.
I've heard the name
from Seattle, who's just he's just such a purveyor of amazing arcane knowledge and weird stuff. I mean, he's really one of those people that early on just kind of helped lead us to be like kind of cooler than we ever would have been without some of those elder statesmen. And he was definitely a big person kind of in that vein, and getting that Richard Powers cover to be our first record. Like, if you don't know Richard Powers, I'll just explain it. It's like surrealistic, where the any kind of human or alien figure is kind of like this wispy ghost like form, where and everything's kind of, it's surrealistic, but like, you know, there are elements that it's not like as even tangible as, say, like a Salvador Dali kind of thing, but it's like,
but there's a look
so
to
striking.
it, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
it's so distinct. And if you look up his artwork, like any of those old Ace or Ballantine books that he did, there's just, it's so, he did thousands, and they're so distinct and beautiful. And there's actually a really great book that has a lot of, you know, I think it's maybe just called The Art of Richard Powers. But if you're a fan of sci-fi art and don't know who he is, check him out.
Yeah, and it's something, well, and the reason why I bring up the cover specifically, too, is because for me, I was, the thing, that was what drew me to it, because I was a big sci-fi nerd. Like, I was big on, you know, pick up the sci-fi books at the store that, you know, they have the porn over there, and then here's the pulp sci-fi and whatever. So when I first saw the record, I was like, oh, wow, that looks like one of those books. That's awesome. I wonder what that sounds like. And,
so wait, I'm sorry. It cut out for a second. You said you would go to the porn section first and then go to sci-fi.
I wasn't allowed in the porn. I wasn't old enough to be in the porn section, and I'm certainly not going to get my dad to, hey, Dad, can you take me to the porn area of the bookstore? Well, sure, son.
You know,
actually, he probably would have, now that I say it aloud. But
something weird video, which was like put out a lot of like weird, crazy B movie videotapes in the early '90s, used to have one in their catalog called Wham Bam Thank You Spaceman. And it was kind of like this like weird alien sci-fi porn where the aliens were these short little kind of almost like This Island Earth, kind of like the Metaluna guys in there, and that had these long tongues or appendages that would come out. And like, it's the kind of thing where you watch for 10 minutes, you're like, who would think this is sexy or interesting at all? Like, and I just
talk
think,
about
like,
a niche interest, boy, let me tell you.
You know, peanut butter and chocolate, yes, but porn and sci-fi, let's stay away from it.
Yeah, let's guys, maybe not so much, but yeah. I think the idea was like, here's we're just gonna have this be a clearinghouse of all the deviant stuff, and you know, you can find.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that's where I got my first. That's where I got my first copy of like Dune, some Robert Heinlein stuff. I mean, there's some good stuff there.
Right. Hey, can we go back to the sex thing for a second?
Sure, of course. Anything you want, Brand.
I just thought of this, and I really haven't thought about this in a long time. But we used to have an Apple IIe.
Oh yeah.
Computer in the early '80s one of my father's coworkers had put like these discs that had a ton of different, those kind of like, you know, adventure games where you like, do you want to do this? And you say, yes, I'd like to go to the right corridor. And there was one called Sex Trek, and it was just a text-based game that was like, and it was literally, but I was so excited about it. And then it was like getting on the computer, and it said stuff like, would you like to have sex with Lieutenant Uhura? And you'd go,
yes.
Yes, I would like to have sex with Lieutenant Uhura. And it'd be like, do you want to remove her Enterprise issued uniform? And it's just like, good God, after like 3 minutes, you're like, this might as well be a typing course. But I don't know. I need to try to find an Apple IIe and get a copy of that. I really do.
Sounds like a real winner, yeah.
that would
You brush
connect
up
me
on
with
your
my
typing.
childhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Get your
for
words
sure.
per minute up.
Okay, we can get off the sci-fi sex thing now.
So all right, you came out as out of the gate. Everybody had their nom de rocks pointed out.
Uh-huh.
Was that something that was sort of like, hey, let's embrace this full ethos, and we'll have these sort of superhero style monikers that we'll attach to ourselves? Was there a specific reason other than it's fun, or
We just hated a lot of bands. I mean, like we never thought the band would last more than a year, and we just didn't like bands that were serious. I just said this somewhere. I think Mojo just did a little review of our first record or something. So I'm like saying the same thing twice, but it's really true. Like it felt like everything in the 90s was about guys singing with that overbite, about how their dad didn't come see them play a t-ball game.
why
And,
didn't you bring the meter?
Yeah. Sitting on top of this machine. I always do that when I don't know what it means. But I just like saying sitting on top of this machine. But anyway, point being is like we just didn't want to be that thing. So we really were looking for something that was not that. So I think we maybe were more influenced by like Everclear than we were, say, like Dick Dale.
Which is to say,
just in
what
a like
not to do,
just in a like let's run away from it kind of way.
Right. So well, and the reason why I bring that up is because
getting back to the name thing.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to change them on every record and just never want people to know our real names, and we really kind of kept that pretty bottled up for a long time. But we had I think like. We switched early on at one point, but mine was Birdstuff which is kind of like if I knew I was going to be, in my mid 40s and be at a record store and like have someone say, "Hey, Birdstuff, what's up?" I like might have thought about it a little more.
Thought about it twice, yeah.
But in the late 70s, a lot of people just even in like regular ours had CB radios, and people would have a CB radio handle.
Yeah, your CB radio handle.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And my mom had a Pontiac Firebird that she used to do carpool to school in, but occasionally like we would be out, and my mom's handle was Wonder Woman, but my uncle's was Birdstuff, and it'd be like I just always had this thing in my mind of like Birdstuff calling Wonder Woman, go man, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, breaker 19.
So we were just trying to think of like we were like thinking of stupid names to go by,
right?
And it was like I'm going to be like what my uncle was on the CB in the 70s.
Wow.
So
that's the origin. Okay, interesting.
That's the origin. That really is. That's the real truth. I don't think I've ever said that before.
It's a Protonic Reversal exclusive. Thank you.
It's an exclusive. Yeah, I'm right.
Well, and the reason why I asked is because it was very clear in the liner notes. You just have the record that like you were like these guys. Oh man, like I remember the Starcrunch. It's something like guitar and rare obligatory vocals, if I remember correctly. Which I thought was freaking hilarious because I was like, oh, this is a product for me. Awesome.
Right.
And Coco had like 17 credits, and I think yours just said hi-hat, if I remember correctly. it's like real sparse.
Yeah, not enough people focus on the hi-hat. The hi-hat needs more love. Yeah, I mean, I think we just always had fun with liner notes because they were fun to write, and we didn't have to give any factual information on them, and it kind of like became just like like it wasn't like a purposeful disinformation campaign, but we're just like it's and our home address was always on there where we lived together in Auburn, Alabama, and I think for a long time after we moved away, those people were still getting weird mail to that apartment. And because like honestly, if you still get a Man or Astro-Man record like off eBay or something from the early 90s, still got that address on it, that home address. So I think it. Yeah, hopefully, maybe they still get something like once in every 10 years.
It's like on Spiderland, how it's got a
right,
the
yeah,
parents' address on there and says interested female vocalist,
Exactly.
please send mail, and they're still it's like, oh yeah, we still get those, we still get that mail. Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. That's the way you did it. And I remember there was one point where, I mean, the one thing I do love about this age where people can kind of bypass a lot of the middlemen of like kind of people that hold the keys, or what do you call it? Like gatekeepers of the music industry.
Sure.
And you can just make a lot of things happen. I mean, there's so many more bands and things out there, but like there was one point where we were always the band that worked extra hard to like, hey, be sure to sign our mailing list and we'll give you Space Dust and this kind of stuff. But there's one point where we had 10,000.
Yeah, I had some of that. Yeah.
It was not, you mean Space Dust, right?
Yeah. Oh, Space Dust. I mean, sorry.
Okay, right. We at one point we had 10,000 people on there. And I remember sending a postcard and going to the post office and like scrapping all our money together to spend like $2,100 or something, like sending out one postcard to people. Yeah. And now it's just like send, it's like,
push a button, hits every social media thing and like hits tens of thousands of people immediately. Yeah.
I mean, that part of it, of like how things work these days, is really cool, I think.
But coming at it from the other side, like coming at it as a fan of you guys, like the level of attention to detail, the fact that you clearly had that relationship between the fans of like, it made you feel like you were in on something cool that was happening. And again, I'm not saying it's cost effective, but I'm saying like I never missed one of your shows. I saw you guys. You're up there with any band that I didn't tour with. I think I saw you guys like that many times. I just kind of lost count at one point because I knew I could just drag whoever with me to see your show and be like, look, you don't need to know anything about them. Come to the show, you'll have a good time. And inevitably, they'd always come away buying a record or a T-shirt and be like, that band was awesome. So it's having that relationship with the fans of like, hey, I got a postcard from Man or Astro-Man. That meant a lot.
We were kind of like just a pestilence in the 90s. It was really hard to avoid us. We were kind of the indie rock music world equivalent of like a 90s coronavirus, but with like surf music. So, but I don't think we ever killed anybody. So we at least we're ethically a lot better.
I was going to let you run with that analogy before shooting holes in it, but yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking. Yeah. But I had a lot of time in college, to be honest. Like Coco and Starcrunch were doing like really intense, like it's a really good industrial design program at Auburn University, and they were always like wrapped up in how to design a clock for West Clock, or like these kind of projects. But like I got really disillusioned with school there, and I was like the music director at the college radio station, so I spent several years just sorry, I'm getting a call. It's my mom. I could add her on for a second. if you need to talk to her, I
can filibuster. No, I'll let it go.
Okay, right on.
Because she's just like probably figuring out like, are we gonna do Christmas in separate rooms, or you're gonna be wearing a mask, right? Like I know that's what it's about, so it wouldn't be super interesting. So basically I was doing the band kind of like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like a band, like maybe like a manager or a fan club manager or something, and like listening to records and putting them in rotation. So that became kind of like the last 2 years of my school until they got out of school. And that's kind of how that whole thing started. And we had friends like that were really talented artists in the art program there. A guy named Stuart Ellis, Stuart E, who's maybe credited on some of the records, but he designed a lot of stuff. We were one of those bands that had stickers before we had songs. So yeah, we always had fun with that element of it. I think as much as anything, I mean, especially at first when we were figuring out exactly what we were doing, I think, honestly, it takes a few years of getting your sea legs touring and like, there's some really good bands that come out right out of the gate as being good live bands, but there's just a certain kind of level of performance you get when you like have toured 200 days a year a few times.
Right.
And I think a lot of it, we were just having, fun with all that kind of stuff early on. And then we kind of got to be a decent little band from just touring endlessly. And it kind of shifted where we were thinking a lot more about the recordings and how we were playing. And plus, the fun thing is when you were like 19 or 20, and this still happens to people, I would assume, is like you learn like what a most right guitar is, or what a like ARP synthesizer is, and you're taking in all this. I mean, it's much different in the realm of plugins probably, but you're still having to like take all this in. And like I said, going back to like, we were so fortunate to have a ton of people that were like, for whatever reason, clung on to us and wanted us to show us the light. And we kind of, for like a real cheesy analogy, we kind of got to stand on the shoulders of some weird pop culture giants to kind of carve a path for ourselves.
Well, sure, and you came in at a time where it was pre-social media too, so it's that entire process is different now, and I think to some degree it's kind of easier to like learn the ropes if you're willing to. But you guys came out with massive enthusiasm, and like I'm just thinking about like all the 7-inches I had from you guys, like all the different releases and things like like the one you can make into a UFO and stuff, like this fun stuff like that, where it's there was no band that like touched you guys as far as that level of interaction between the person getting the thing and at the show and the band that I can think of. If there is, I wasn't aware of it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff. I didn't even realize it, or forgotten about it. But there's a really nice guy named James Bennett that lives in Salt Lake City that has like a blog it's like Man or Astro-Man ad nauseum, and it kind of has like all the different colors of the vinyl that were put out and all the like weird, like we had hatchets at one point. I think I have one in an attic somewhere.
Right.
That I've been telling this guy James, I've been telling him I've sent him one, but we had like we only had 9 hatchets. It's maybe the rarest thing. I'm about to say something really weird. I'm kind of scared about it. But like we had 9 hatchets, and then Starcrunch thought it was a really bad idea to sell hatchets at the show. Basically anything could become a Man or Astro-Man item, right, if we would put some nice stickers and labeling on it. But I was really excited, and this I've never told this either, but like I was really excited about going into the Walmart in Auburn where we went to college and sneaking in one of our hatchets and putting it with the Walmart hatchets.
So someone just trying to buy a regular hatchet would come away with
just to be able to imagine somebody's trying to find a SKU code on this Man or Astro-Man hatchet at a Walmart. And I did it. I actually did it. So I don't know if somebody could buy it because there wasn't a SKU code, but but yeah, there was actually a Man or Astro-Man hatchet in a Walmart at one point.
Might still be there. Attentive listeners can go looking for it.
Yeah. So, if you're a young band and looking for some, good advice on a career path or how to do your band, listen to this interview and don't do any of it.
Do the opposite.
Like that. You do the exact opposite. Do like we did to Everclear.
So getting back to the first record, did you ever think when you were making that you'd be playing Nitrous Burnout like all these years later? Like were you thinking about in terms of this being something that you could be doing far later on, or did it seem ephemeral at the time?
No, definitely not. We were just being weird and having fun and you know, filling time in college. And honestly, that was like, you know, there's different levels of when you're in a like band that lasts a long time of what you get excited about. And still, like, you know, it was exciting. Like when we were at a point for whatever weirdo reason, like where we would sell out the Fillmore in San Francisco or do 2 nights at Irving Plaza, or like, which just weird, inexplicable stuff that we had worked to where we got to that point for a small band, for a small weird band. But at the but none of that stuff touches like hearing our 7-inch on a college radio station for the first time,
right? Yeah.
Or putting together a weird, cool show at a bowling alley in our town and like putting up flyers all week because you're really excited about it. I actually got suspended from Auburn University for putting up too many posters.
Really? It was against some rule or something that you were doing that?
Well, yeah, but I did like 15 in a row going up a light pole, and I had to go to student court where these doofus like frat guys were like thinking what to do, and I was like, "What are you going to suspend me from college? I'm already not going to class." You know,
yeah.
So
you're just cutting into my flowering time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was crazy. No, I think I had to pay like a $400 fine or something.
Oof.
But that's a lot of 1992 money right there, though.
I mean, it's a lot of 2020 money, truth be told, right now. But it's definitely back then, yeah,
for sure. 2019, it's peanuts, but 2020, that's serious bread.
That's going to be a third of your stimulus. That
exactly right. I think if do you put headers on these as like the title of the episodes?
No, do you think
I can't remember?
I mean,
I think this one, you know, since we've been talking about fax signals and everything, like, I think it should just be called "Okay Boomer" and then in parentheses in space.
I was thinking Criterion Edition Armageddon, but maybe that might work
or
too.
Yeah, either one, whatever you want to go with. You got 2 solid choices there.
Yeah, exactly. We're workshopping here. We're going through the process.
No, yeah. So yeah, I guess but if you want to talk about the band for like 5 minutes, talk about the band.
Destroy All Astro-Man. Tell me about that, because that's the one that you have the it's awesome EP first of all, but also it's got that version of the MST3K Love theme, which was big deal. Big deal.
Yeah, that was always so fun, and we would play it early on. Those guys were based out of Minnesota, and they would come to our shows there. And we were like, "Hey, we're going to cover your theme song." And they're like, "You should do it." And so it just kind of became a staple. And a lot of people thought we played the song to the show, but we didn't. We just covered it. But occasionally in LA, when Joel was living there, he would come on stage and sing it with us.
That's so awesome.
And he's such a nice guy, but he does not know the words to his own theme song.
Well, he's probably not listening to it, I'm sure. Yeah, but
multiple times we wrote them out for him, and he was like, "In the not too distant next Sunday in the future, we were."
Was he like, "Next Sunday, AD? Why would you?" What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he was forgetting the robots' names. And it's literally like Coco was like whispering the words into his ear at one show, and I thought, this is great because that show is so brilliant, such an indelible part. Again of that era. But I love that he didn't know the words to his own song.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I feel like the whole MST3K crowd and the Manor Astro-Man crowd was basically a Venn diagram that was a circle. And I say that as someone that was in that Venn diagram. Like, I feel like that was a natural thing, but maybe that was just coming at it from the perspective of being a young man of certain interest.
Those things don't always follow suit though, because I think we did a few shows. I can't remember how many, but we did some shows with They Might Be Giants.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is going to be so cool. They're like a bigger band, and like their crowd will like us because we're nerds. They're nerds. And they did not like us at all. Their audience.
Interesting. So what was the were they hostile, or were they just like indifferent, or what was the scene?
I think we were like a little too energetic and punk and weird.
Yeah.
Like I think they weren't used to like people jumping out in the crowd and playing fast or something. I don't know what it was, but like we definitely were. It kind of was definitely a lead balloon.
They wanted more accordion and wordplay rather than crowd interaction.
Yeah. Well, I also noticed that there's a certain segment of their audience that just comes to hear Istanbul, not Constantinople, and Particle Man.
Yeah.
So like half of their crowd doesn't even want to hear the rest of their songs. And I really like that band a lot, and what they've done with all the kids records is brilliant. So, and they were super nice to us, but their crowd was like, oh my God, what is this? Why did they choose these guys? Which I kind of like, because I was really excited about it, and then their crowd hated us, which I kind of like weird stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's tough because you like to think that there would be some overlap there, right? But
I think we just weren't like This American Life enough for them.
I know exactly what you're saying when you say that, by the way. That's
right? It makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, because there is a bit, you guys come from the world of, even though it's surf music, you're playing with kind of these bands that are, I guess, to their ears, like more aggressive. You've got I was thinking about the fact that like when you count things off, you do like the open hi-hat, it was like it's a forceful presentation. If you're sitting there expecting Istanbul, not Constantinople, maybe that's not exactly what you're looking for. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we just kind of came from a punk rock world and wanted to like put on really good shows and that were fun and exciting and occasionally dangerous. And so that was kind of part of it. And I just, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And, honestly, like we have a great time with, and there's the folks that do the Tiki Fest in San Diego that are like so nice and so cool. We had such a fun time there. Was it 2 years ago? We played there, but occasionally we'll get asked to play like these kind of surf garage festivals that are super retro and really fun. All the people are cool. It's super like mid-century, but we get up there and kind of do our thing that doesn't quite fit in that package.
Yeah, you're from the 50s, but the 2350s. Yeah.
And I think like I've actually seen it before where people will like fly us out to do one of those, and they're excited because they're like, oh, it's Man or Astro-Man, and they're one of these kind of bands. And then like we get there, it's like, and I could just see it's like, it's not exactly it's not the good times I thought it was going to be. But we always do our best, and we have really a lot of fun at those. But sometimes I feel like, oh man, we're bumming these people out.
Yeah, but also you guys are being true to yourself too, right? Like you're not going to try to be like, oh, we're gonna be happy 50s good time band for this show. I mean, that's not really what you're doing.
We tried to. I think we had some, but we tried to do like, we just were terrible at all that stuff. We just like didn't know how to do it. Like we try, like if we could like have gold lame suits and all like move our guitars up and down at the same point. And I think we used to have certain songs where we kind of had some weird versions of that were a little more robotic.
Yeah, you had like the Devo kind of presentation. Yeah, for sure. It worked and it fit the ethos. It didn't seem like it was like, oh look.
But like we definitely don't. I mean, besides Coco, none of us smile when we play. Like we're not gonna, it's not an eyes and teeth show. It's not like, it's like. if you had drama in high school, you know what that means.
I know exactly what that means. Yes.
Right. So, but like we have so much fun, but I feel like sometimes those audiences are bummed out on us, and I sometimes feel like some of the real hardcore surf enthusiasts like don't really like our band, or they're a little bummed out about us, or they'll like a certain era of our band. And like we love surf music. I mean, that was like kind of how we started, and it was like. But also, the thing I think a lot of those people don't take in consideration is, you know, like we would have friends like the Shadowy Men guys. Well, they're not a good example, but like just any of these like kind of bands, not necessarily a band of surfers like that they're great in a different way, but you know, some bands that kind of do a really retro thing, but they are playing sometimes like 15 shows a year, and they kind of have their thing. But for about an 8-year period, we toured 250 days a year, and we're putting out 3 records a year. So we just couldn't help but kind of evolve for better or worse, because we were like kind of doing, you know, and no slight to those bands because it is what it is, but like we were kind of doing their career, but for 50 years within an 8-year period.
Right, yeah, as like compressed time. Right.
Does
right.
that, yeah, does that make sense?
I totally get what you're saying. Absolutely.
We couldn't help but like become interested in other things. And we also just felt like we weren't really good at like pretending like it was 1962. Although we love, like, I love surf music so much, and I love sci-fi, and it's just so, because honestly, that retro futurism, that was like, I don't feel like really since then, I mean, maybe bits of the 80s, but since then, like, there hasn't been where like people weren't thinking so dire and about the immediate present. They were thinking about, the future, like, hey, what's it going to be like in 30 years? Like, let's make it happen.
I think you're honest with me. I don't think people think about the future that much at all, and if they do, they think about it in some prism of what's happened in the past or what's currently happening now. And if anything, they or if it is nostalgia or something.
Yeah, or it's very gloomy, and I understand that, but there was like, exactly. And but in the early 60s and late 50s, there was this kind of optimism of what the future would hold.
Sure. Yeah.
Little did they know that all the, you know, plastics and you know, all like everything we were doing to the environment is kind of like maybe wasn't the smartest. But you know, honestly, and I'm not giving people like a pass, but people honestly thought that it was
hopeful in its way. Yeah, I mean, like it's
that was created in 55, and they thought, hey, this is a way to connect everybody.
Yeah,
and you know, it was kind of the path of the future. You know, we played in Brazil a good bit, and there's a city there that's the capital that they just moved out in the middle of nowhere in Brazil in the early 60s called Brasilia, and it's so cool, 2001 looking, and like Louis Costa and Oscar Niemeyer, architects, like built this beautiful thing. Like you should look at, if you don't know it, look it up. But point being is it's so brutal. There's no trees. Everything's like futuristic brutalism, concrete, and hasn't aged well. And it's just built for cars. And it's kind of a brutal city because of that. But at the time, people really thought that was going to connect the world together, and kind of advance things. And it was starting to really get some urban design that really was going in that path. Like there's a really cool film on YouTube that's like the original vision that Walt Disney had for Epcot.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I've seen that.
Have you seen that? It's like 17 minutes, and like it's like the trucks go here and the city, and there's like a retail section. It's kind of based on that, like, like Corbusier kind of idea of like, the Radiant City, where you have these different little sectors. And a lot of that modern architecture, like the international style, really, did not end up doing as well as there was a lot of flaws in it, I guess is what I'm saying. But point being is, regardless of the outcome, it was really cool. People were looking to a bright future, and with an asterisk there, that depends on if
you were a straight white man
was,
or exactly.
Totally. I mean, there's a lot of layers there.
Sure.
But but honestly, I feel like we kind of lost that, and I'm not sure if it's a good thing that we've lost it, or if we need to get that back a little bit as a society, and not really just via your Elon Musk of the world.
That guy. Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. I don't think we're going to solve it on this show specifically, but I think it's something that is worth thinking about for sure.
I don't underestimate us.
It's quite the spread of material that we're covering tonight, isn't it?
No, but I'm just saying, like, come on, like we can do this.
Let's bring back futurism, folks. Come on. Point of order, I also want to mention, you mentioned hard sci-fi, which made me think of the Martin Starr character in Party Down. Hard Surf, where he's only into hard sci-fi. I fucked that up, sorry. That where you get the people that I'm only into hard surf.
Oh, right. There's another sci-fi moment where, like, gosh, I'm going to mess it up, and I had it in my head for a second. But okay, I love the first season of that. So. There's only 2 seasons, right?
Just the 2 seasons, yeah.
And the first season is brilliant. The second season has some really good episodes. But there's one thing where, like, he's Ron, the team leader guy, right?
Yeah, that's
he's doing a Yoda impression, but he's like moving like. I think I am getting it right. He's kind of moving like C-3PO, and he goes, right. "You are incorrect, young Jedi."
Yeah.
The fact that they kind of like mixed like Yoda as a robot just killed me.
It was like a wrong answers only meme.
The show was so great.
Yeah. No, that's that. I think I cited that show as a primary influence for an old band. It's I think kind of a hidden gem. The other thing I wanted to say is there was something going around today. Even I saw on the internet that was songs that you were kind of ashamed to admit you didn't know were covers, and you guys had one of those that I didn't know. Destination Venus was a Brasillo's cover for like years. I only knew your version.
Yeah, that band is so good, and
they are
like they're just fantastic. They're like, and the original version is far better than ours. It's great. It's like, and it's actually like there's one part that we felt when we were younger. We should probably start playing it because they had a female vocalist, like John Call. They had 2 vocalists basically. One was a female and one was a male voice. And there's a part in Destination Venus that kind of has this like kind of boogie rock breakdown where it's like burn down, burn down. And we were like, that's kind of like goofy and fluff, and like let's just not play that part because it's only like 8 or 12 bars.
Yeah, there's not that much of it. Yeah,
right. So we just left that out of our version of the song, and I always felt like we chumped out kind of by not doing that part, but I think we would have done it in a corny way, so maybe it was a smart decision.
I just felt it was an aesthetic decision, which it sounds like it was. We're sort of like, that doesn't fit the vision of what you guys were doing, and also that made it something where when I actually
lazy decision,
lethargy, yeah. Well, when I listened back to the original, I was like, oh, cool. There's this whole other thing here that that's it. Actually, I thought that led weight to it being cool to me personally,
right?
Which is why you did everything in Man or Astro-Man. Is how did Conan Neutron feel about it? I'm sure, but. So that's on the Your Weight on the Moon, if I remember correctly. Which
I think there's another. I think there's 2 versions of it. And there's one on another record. There's definitely on Your Weight on the Moon, and then maybe it's on Destroy Astro-Man 2. Like there may be 5 people that may know that out there.
And I'm going to hear from all of them after this airs, by the way.
Right.
Once it hits the podcast, like actually, and it'll be like 2 months later. I'll be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. What is it?
Yeah.
I did want to.
But I'm the only one. By the way, I'm the only one in the band that remembers anything, and not because we were doing drugs and drinking, because like that band, we always had like 500 billion things to put on stage.
Right.
It was definitely like a more or less is a bore kind of band. And but Coco, you could go up to him. I feel like I may have exaggerated over this years, but I think like one of his relatives in Philly came out to see us one time, and he didn't remember who they were. And he was like, "Oh, thanks so much for coming out to the show. You know, you guys live around here." And
wow.
We're like, "Hey, that's your cousin, man." And but like, you know, it'll be like, "Hey, you remember Shank Hall that time in '95 where like we spilt all that stuff because there was carpet in the venue and there was a guy vacuuming before we got there, and you know, this guy was in the front row, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" So I was always kind of I'm the last remain. Yeah, I'm kind of like, you know Cannibal for Leibowitz, right? That book.
Yeah.
Do you know the book with the monastery, and they're keeping, it's like a post-apocalyptic world where they're trying to keep what bits of history, you know, they can, and you know, anyway, it's a great book, but like I feel like that's where I am in
for Astro-Man esoteria.
And I'm the only one that's played every show, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm like the only member that's ever played every show. So like, but you know, I haven't gotten anything for it.
I don't believe there's an award for that yet that I'm aware of. And I actually do really want to talk about the clone tour as well. But you brought the bringing stuff, like the non rock and roll stuff with that. Reminded me of the TVs, like having the
Oh, right.
the TVs along, which is something that most bands don't have, like TVs as accoutrement.
Yeah, you know, actually, like we wanted to do that, but we didn't have a lot of surplus income early on, so we were kind of like trying to borrow friends' TVs, like when we go do shows. Before we were like touring, and our very first show ever, I think, was at a place called Club 312 in Birmingham, Alabama, and it's where like we grew up originally. And we stopped at my folks on the way to this show, and I was like, "Hey, can I borrow you guys like wood grain big console TV so we can put a guitar amp on it?" And I don't know why, but my dad let us do it. But Starcrunch like bumped into it with his guitar and broke like the on button.
Oh no!
And so it was like, to turn it off, my dad would have to unplug it, and he didn't ever replace it for years. And for years, he had to like watch TV by like either plugging it in or unplugging it. And I still hear about that sometimes.
I would imagine that would be a topic of concern for some years to come after.
I know. I'm like, "Dad, let it go." It's like 27 years ago.
Well, and that also reminds me of we haven't talked about the samples and sort of like the 60s sci-fi samples and things like that. Did that like drive compositions at all? Or was it more like, hey, let's seek out something that fits the vibe of what we're trying to do here? Or was it a bit of column A, a bit of column B, any of those things?
You know, honestly, it was like, this is a real boring answer, but I'll tell you the truth is it was kind of a functional thing. And I think it actually ended up being smarter than we are normally smart, is, playing in a surf idiom. There is a tendency, there's a lot of, songs that are in E and blah, 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 this is the thing, right? Songs are short.
You want to differentiate it somehow. You want to.
Yeah, it's a very stylistic thing where that doesn't veer away from itself too much. And we were realizing like it just sounds like to these people, and when there wasn't tons of bands doing it, that they're hearing the same song like 22 times. And it was a way that we kind of figured out that that people would kind of know, like, oh, this is the beginning of like a song called Invasion of the Dragon Man or whatever.
Right,
because they know the sample more than the song.
Yeah.
And also it kind of served the function of it gave us a however long the sample is running of a chance to like tune our guitars or
catch your breath or fix a thing that because haywire.
Oh no, we never needed to catch our breath until like 2010. But and then we got oxygen like mask, we're hitting the oxygen in between.
Yeah, it works with the stick.
But
it's fine.
right. But yeah, so it actually like works really well for both those functions. And it was fun and also horrible doing it. It would be like, and Coco did most of it where it was like, hey, are you sure there wasn't like, hey, can you watch You Conquered the World like one more time? I know there was one line I remember in there that would be great. And so like he would watch like 40 hours of B movies to get like a 10-second intro for a record or whatever. So he really put some time in on those.
But it worked because they almost would work as if they were like vocal hooks or something in a different band. Like they were so like, in most, in a lot of cases they were very bombastic or just kind of, especially contextless, just really kind of abrupt. And it led to, as you're saying, like I think that, okay, it's that one where they do the, da-na-na-na-na-na-na, like that thing. Okay, cool. And
well, how like a 90s like hip hop record, like if you listen to like a Snoop or a Dr. Dre record, there's always the songs that have the phone call at the beginning.
The skits, we talk about the skits all the time.
Where you just like do the call and they aren't there and you have to wait for them. And like, yo, tell them I need it. And like that was our version of the 90s like phone call intro.
Yeah.
But seriously, also like there was like just a rare, and I think this is something that just came out in the little Mojo article, but when it was just one of those little one-page buried treasures piece they did. But I mentioned there was like 3 records that really shaped how we did that stuff. Mm-hmm. And there weren't very like what you would think probably Man or Astro-Man like is listening to be influenced by, but we loved that De La Soul 3 Feet High and Rising record. Yeah, it's really brilliant the way it uses samples. And then we were also listening to that Byrne and Eno record, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, that has all like the weird evangelical preachers on it.
Yeah.
But and I think that record didn't come out in 89, but I think 3 Feet High and Rising came out in 89. But the one that's really like the formula that we kind of borrowed from and kind of expanded upon eventually, but like there's a song by this British band called the Jazz Butcher, mm-hmm. called Do the Bubonic Plague. And if you listen to it, you'll be like, whoa, Man or Astro-Man totally ripped off how they do their thing from this song. So go listen to it and like lose some respect for us.
Fair. Sounds good. So it's called Do the Bubonic Plague is the name of the record?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like, it's not super surfy, but when you listen to it, you're like, oh, duh. I thought these guys were smarter than they were, but I see where this came from. Like, do bands normally do this? Like,
some of them do. Like some of them are really they keep that stuff close to the vest and like good on them for doing.
No. I'm not talking about being candid. I'm talking about kind of unselling the product.
Oh, maybe not so explicitly. I'm trying to think. It's happened. It's happened. You're not the first person to do it, but
Good. We don't ever want to be first at anything, and obviously we weren't with that sample thing.
So we're only to 95, by the way. Project Infinity was the next record, and around that same time is about when Servotron started, if I remember correctly. Is my timeline messed up here?
I think so. Yeah, right around there, 90 in 95 probably. I think is correct.
Can you speak a little bit to the formation of that band, which is a band that kind of the legend has grown? I think since
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The people that know, man. People that know.
It was kind of, it was like Dexter X, who was in Man or Astro-Man, who was like a touring member of Man or Astro-Man.
Yeah, I saw him with you guys a couple times. Yeah,
right. He was great, but we had some spare time. We were both living in Athens, Georgia at the time. In between when Man or Astro-Man, like Starcrunch would kind of write a lot of songs and work on them, and then we would have this kind of spare time of to go do stuff. So that was kind of like our side project. And we were listening to a lot of new wave music at the time, and we're kind of like, we should make it look really robotic. And then we were like, hey, why don't we actually be robots?
Yeah, like almost like Small Wonder, but with attitudes, sort of style.
No, with spray painted catcher's vest and like
brutalist Small Wonder.
I think at one point I had like a bike spoke like beeping light for a heart and stuff. It was like real crappy robot outfits. I think got better. I think. Well, they would start good at the beginning of a tour and then kind of fall apart as we would go.
Right.
One of my favorite memories of that band is there was a point when bands kind of sometimes are on the way up and on the way down, and we played at the Mermaid Lounge in New Orleans, and this must have been late night. Dave Pirner from Soul Asylum was kind of way on the way down, and he, for some reason, the bill was at this tiny little bar in New Orleans was Dave Pirner from Soul Asylum and Servotron. And I remember talking to him.
Wow.
And we had, there were some, kids there to see us, which was cool, but it was obvious like there was a good faction of the audience. And he's like, well, it doesn't really matter to me if you guys want to. It's like, we usually just honestly like to play first. Like, we're not really a play second or headline kind of band. And he's like, but I will tell you, and I remember telling him this, we're robots. And he was like what do you mean, like this, like keyboards? Or it's like, no, we're robots.
We're actual robots.
And then it got kind of bad because there's some snotty punky kids that were Servotron fans that were I was just heckling them during Runaway Train, and I was like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Let's let him miss Winona as respectfully as we can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's it. So how did you know Hayden from Supernova? Was that just from touring and from being a band, or?
Right. Yeah. No, the Supernova played Atlanta a bit, and I really liked that band, and they were good after he wasn't in the band, but they were the best early on when he was in the band. It was just so simple, and they had their thing down, and they'd play these 20-minute shows, and it was kind of duh, it's another cool band from outer space.
Yeah,
kind of
seems natural, right?
And I think he had parted ways with them, and we had been talking about doing a split 7-inch or something, and then he came out and was a touring member for a while, and then we did Servotron for however many years. I think we put we put out 2 proper full-length records. I think one was on AMRAP, and then one was on Lookout.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that tracks, and then there's a bunch of stuff compilations and singles and things along those lines.
But if people haven't heard that band, it's basically the music's real Missing Persons meets Devo, and meets the third part of it is one of those restaurants where you pay the waiters to insult you. That was the formula. That's basically right. The formula of the band. We would just berate the audience. And we got in a few fights with the audience. It was kind of got aggressive. There's occasionally be rednecks that didn't know how to take it.
Right. Well, it was confrontational if you come at it from a certain perspective, I suppose. But I mean, to me, that kind of seemed part of the thing.
We were really good at that, and I, honestly, since I'm kind of giving up, everything here, there would be definitely nights before we would kind of change into the robot stuff where we kind of scan the crowd and like see like, oh God, this guy's wearing a Lamb of God shirt. He's gonna be easy. And no offense to Lamb of God.
Yeah.
But like
coming up next week, Lamb of God.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we got kind of good at it, and we did have an advantage with hecklers, and it's an advantage that every band has, but they don't realize it, and that there are usually one drunk person yelling at us, and we're 4 people that do it every night and have loud microphones.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So it's not really a fair playing field, but most bands just don't realize they have that power.
Yeah, it all
But
depends
it's
on if
there.
you choose to exercise it, I suppose, right? And
It's there for the taking. Yeah.
when you have all
Use
these
it.
songs about robot domination, human extinction, you might as well lean into it.
Yeah, that was basically the theme. Is like I can sum up the and I wrote this lyric. It's like probably the thing I'm most proud of in my music career. That kind of sums up the entirety of that band. And here's the line. Can I say it?
Please.
Okay, it goes. Today is your birthday. We are going to kill you.
I was hoping to be Bad Birthday. I love that's a
Yeah,
that's a modern
it.
classic.
That kind of is like the theme of the band. We're going to kill you on your birthday.
I think about that song every birthday, by the way.
Good. It should be a staple. They should play it right after Happy Birthday.
Yeah, exactly. It's way better.
Kind of give you like the mixed message.
Yeah, it's way better. Yeah, exactly. Don't get too comfortable.
Right. Robots are coming, and that band may end up being prophetic.
Yeah, as it turns out.
Like, yeah, I hope it is. Like, we plotted a lot of destruction for the human race in that band. So in a lot of clever ways, there's a lot of ways in the lyrics that we kill off humanity.
Yeah.
A wide variety of techniques.
I know it's you really explored the material. It was quite impressive.
Yeah.
The commitment to the bit.
We went deep.
You went deep. All right. So meanwhile, Man or Astro-Man, you got Project Infinity. That's got that excellent Pixies B-side that you guys did the cover of. It shows up in the live album.
Yeah. Oh, I have a funny Pixie story, but yeah, just go on. I now I'm realizing this is a chronological thing, and we've got like a lot more years.
Yeah,
go,
I mean, it's a chronological in the fact that we'll get to what we can get to for sure. And there's certain records I definitely want to get to on the Man or Astro-Man pantheon that I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff, but it's not strictly chronological. Don't worry about it.
We did a college radio interview. I'll just tell a quick version. We did a college radio interview on the radio station. I was the music director with Frank Black when it. Probably like 6 months before his first solo record came out. And I like that record a lot.
Those first, actually, I like those first 2 records both quite a bit. I think they're really good.
Right. And then,
it's too bad he never made any after that, huh?
Well, I like it. I like the Pixies. I like their career. I like a lot of bits of his career. But point being is, we had just had a 7-inch, our first 7-inch ever that we're so proud of, called Possession by Remote Control, come out.
Yep.
And I was like, for like 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm going to give this to Frank Black. He's the dude from the Pixies. I can't wait. And so it gets there. We're doing the interview and we made him food. And Carl, who's Bookman, who was one of our first roadies. In fact, we were trying to make him the world's most famous roadie, but he made him this heaping portion of like baked beans, and man, he loved those beans. But like when I went around to give him the Possession by Remote Control 7-inch, she's like, "Well, I don't really have a record player that's working right now, so why don't you just keep it?" And I was like, "Man," and looking back now, that's such a bummer. Like even if you're never going to play it,
just take the damn record, Frank Black.
When you get back to the Hampton Inn and you're just going to chunk it or whatever, like take it, because that was really kind of crushing. And then fast forward, it was like to like 98 or 99, and things have changed, and we were playing Lupo's, like a bigger club. I mean, not a huge club, but like 1,000 cap or something in Providence, Rhode Island. And he was playing the smaller room. And I wanted to go be like, hey, I still want to give you that 7.
All that time later. That's awesome.
Right. So, anyway, that's
Did he take it that time, or was he?
But I love his career, and I love all the Pixie stuff. So I'm not trying to disparage him as a musician, but he didn't take our 7-inch, and it's kind of it's kind of put a void in my heart ever since.
Yeah, that's kind of a drag. That's kind of a drag.
So all right, what record is it?
So Experiment Zero, the first one that you did full length, was on Touch and Go. Right. Starts with the speaker phasing test. Like it's got that Talking Heads cover. That's great. Tell me a little bit about that record. That time of the band. It's like 96, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That was the first record we did with Touch and Go, and honestly, the reason we were with this, a lot of people kind of think we're bummed that we left Estrus Records, which this really awesome guy Dave Pirner runs, that has put up so many cool garage and punk and surf records in that time period, and just such a cool label, same aesthetic as doing lots of cool merch and everything. But
it's the reason I know Bellingham. Is just because of Estrus.
Yeah. I mean, and he put on Garage Shock, which is some of our funnest shows ever.
3B.
It was a really good camaraderie with that label and a healthy competition with the band. I mean, it was like everything you'd want out of a cool punk rock label. And Dave really helped us out so much. But the problem was we were just these dumb kids from Alabama that were excited about seeing the world. And Dave had a really good point about, you guys aren't going to make as much money if you license these records to other territories. You're going to make more if we actually export them to there and people buy them from, the States version. And that was true. But the problem was we would get an offer to go do a tour of Australia or somewhere. And they would say, but we need a new record for you guys to tour here. So there was a 3-year period where we were, or a 2-year period maybe, where we were putting out 3 albums a year, so we could go to different countries.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot happening,
and it just got kind of silly. And Touch and Go was working with Southern and the UK and labels in other territories, and it's we just need. We can't really quite agree with Dave on this, but he's got a very valid point. But we just need to have one record come out in all these places at the same time. And that's really the story. And God, I'm driving myself crazy. If you've made it this far in this listen, you're better than me, because I'm getting really tired of my tangents. But I remember one of the most bummer days of my life was calling Dave and telling him we were going to do the next record with Touch and Go, because, circle back, the guys in Operation Reinformation were they live in Pittsburgh, which is where the Mr. Rogers show was done. Andy from Operation Reinformation worked on the Land of Make Believe. We had just been to the Mr. Rogers show set, and then I called Dave from a payphone. So literally went from the Land of Make Believe to calling the guy that put out our first record, and such an awesome dude.
Right, yeah.
To tell him that we're putting the next record out with Touch and Go. But it was just, I mean, Estrus is an amazing label. It's just a really a functionality of what we wanted to do with touring. But that was a bummer phone call. I remember. I hated
that's
it.
Tough. That couldn't have been easy, especially when someone that kind of stood up for you and when there wasn't really that much of a reason for. But it's again, you had to do what was right for the band too. So.
Yeah, and it was for sure, and we felt like it was Touch and Go were such good people, and honestly, one of the best times of our, just having so many people there that we loved, because it was a really big staff for an independent record label in the 90s. There was probably at one point 20 people that worked there in a building on Ravenswood in Chicago. And there was probably like a 5-year period of my life where I would talk to somebody at Touch and Go every day about something with the band. And it was just kind of this, I don't know. It was a moment where we were probably felt like we had this kind of extended family of people kind of around our band. So that was a really great time for us with the Touch and Go records. But yeah, the Experiment Zero we actually recorded in Alabama.
Steve came down and did that at Zero Return, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, Steve Albini came down and recorded it in the studio that's like down a dirt road that we were recording at in the middle of nowhere, with like the front porch was like this guy Jim, who's a really great engineer. It's a super great, like kind of Southern character that had all these great old school microphones, and really cool tape machines. So it's like literally like going down this dirt road in the middle of nowhere in Alabama to this house that's falling apart. And so we brought Steve down to record there. And Jim is a really amazing guy, but he's kind of the Southern guy that's kind of really set in his ways. And he would take in all these stray cats. And the studio was set up so there was like a live room, and then you would have to go through the bathroom to get to the little control room, which was like if somebody was deucing, you would have to like wait to hear your track back until, and often kind of pick the right moment of like, okay, has it aired out enough? Like, how bad do I want to hear this track? But there was another room that was kind of the living room that was behind the control room, and there was like 2 chairs in there and like a TV with videotapes of every episode of The Simpsons. That's basically the room, but there's 2 places to sit, like in the house.
Yeah.
And so Steve does the natural thing and comes down and sits in a chair. But Jim takes all these stray cats that he loves, right? He's got one cat named Caddy, and Steve sat in Caddy's chair. There's 2 chairs in the house to sit in. So I remember Steve getting there and Jim going, Steve, you're in Caddy's chair. And Steve got on the floor and just sat down like a kid, like the rest of us, which was great. He went with this weirdo experience that we threw at him, and we recorded it really quickly, like just in a few days. We mixed it in Chicago, but like we recorded it in Alabama really quickly.
Did you
feel
like the songs?
Go ahead.
Like, did you feel like being on Touch and Go did that inform the process of those songs, or was that just where you were at then? And I only say that because Touch and Go, there's so many awesome iconic bands from there, but it's kind of like a little bit harder edged maybe than like some of the stuff on Estrus.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we got bass on that record. Like there's like a good thick kick drum sound, and it's a great drum sound, and you can hear the bass, and it's got a good bite to it. Like, so there was kind of a tiny bit of heaviness from just that, but I think that was still when we were like tweaking like our version of this kind of weirdo like surf music platform, that we were really influenced by. I think that's kind of like the last record we were like kind of all in on that. And I'm not saying we made that decision. It was just where we were as musicians.
Sure. I mean, you're not going to keep making the same record.
That's what we were playing. We never got together as like, hey, let's make this record extra surfy or not surfy or weird or noisy, or like we never had a plan. And it was kind of a record that was written like the first one, where we kind of wrote it all together. And so I think that record, for If You Like Men or Astro-Man, is a pretty cohesive record, and it's kind of like the backside of a bookend of that first era for us. But we mixed it in Chicago, and we were Steve and Starcrunch and I, which is Brian Causey. I don't care if people know real names or not, but you can call him either Brian or Starcrunch. It doesn't matter.
Right.
At this point, like the internet exists, so be it. But we were driving to Atlanta to make it to the airport to go mix the record, and there was a blizzard in Georgia, and we couldn't make it all the way to the airport. We're going to have to rebook the flight, and the roads were closed, and all there was this like skanky trucker hotel that had one room left, and we had to stay in there that night. But the heat was out, and it was like 30 degrees in that room. It was so cold. I remember.
Rough.
Luckily, there was a truck stop, like 50 yards away. It was pretty close. And we went to go get some food because that's all there was around to get any sort of, sustenance. And Steve was buying all these like roast beef, like meals, kind of look like microwave meals and things. And I was like, I told Brian, I was like, why is he buying stuff that's not a microwave back there? So we get back, and I guarantee you Steve remembers the story. We get back to this one room, and Steve said, "Oh, these are chem activated meals where you like peel them and then shake them and they get hot. So we're going to get in this bed, and I'm going to like shake these like roast beef meals and things like that, and that's what's going to heat us up." So yes, if you want to know how me and Astro-Man got to Chicago before our flight, we stayed at a skanky like charged by the hour trucker hotel with Starcrunch, myself, and Steve Albini sleeping in an oversized bed together with like self-activating roast beef
with
meals
Salisbury steak
for heat
being activated.
Heat, yeah. that is a real thing that happened on planet Earth.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, that happened on planet Earth. It's like not fiction. Yeah,
that's the glamour stuff of being in a rock band right there.
Oh yeah, it's all about the glamour though.
Okay, so,
and then we mixed it up. We mixed it up there at Steve's home studio before he was in electrical.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was yeah. We always have a good time working with Steve, even when he makes fun of us or is mean to us. No, he's never mean to us, but Steve's really great at putting people in their place sometimes. And I remember we recorded our last record, which has been a while now, called DEFCON 54321 in Chicago. And there's that whole thing of how we kind of evolved and adapted, like you've kind of mentioned it. But I forget what song it was, but we were like kind of listening back to this guitar part, and we were saying like, I don't know, maybe it's a little too standard, or like maybe we should replay it and dig in a little more. I don't know. We were kind of doing that whole studio thing. We were analyzing this guitar part, and Steve leans over and goes like, we asked Steve like, hey, what do you think of that? He goes, I don't know, it's just surf music, right? And I know, but it was so good. We had to appreciate it. It's like, I don't know, it's just surf music.
This is the casual dismissiveness.
He was being facetious.
Yeah, well, of course. But still, it's like...
Yeah, he was being facetious. But there's always those times where like Steve will like kind of, I'll say this, the records we've recorded with Steve Albini, I don't have any regrets about, and I can listen to all those records. And I can't say that for all our records. Like, because like this is kind of like the process and the way Steve is, we're really economic most of the time with how we did things, and it just kind of made for a real genuine sound for us, at least. So like I always feel like when we do record with Steve, it's going to be a record I can always listen to,
which is nice. That's a nice thing. Can you tell me a little bit about 1000X, which is actually one of my favorite Astro-Man releases? I like that EP quite a lot, or 10-inch, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I think we had the idea for
the vellum cover.
Like
layered.
we were thinking let's do like kind of a science record or something.
Yeah.
I think we kind of had the imagery before we had the music. And then I think we recorded that. Like it was cold. It was in the middle of the winter, and it is kind of a very, to me, a very like science project, cold, calculated sounding record. With a lot of really cool sounds on it, I think. There's a lot of weird like lap still run through a ring modulator.
Yeah, some weird sounds on there in a good way. I mean, unorthodox, I should say, not weird.
Right. And we were just trying different we were just kind of experimenting a little bit. There's I think there's one song on there that's just like what's it called? Universe City.
Yeah.
And it's Starcrunch playing bass and me playing drums, and like that's it. And then there's like the only guitar part on there is just like guitar scrape for like 10 seconds. Like, let's have a guitar on there, but only doing a like
it was just the
scrapes.
Yeah. Instead of just the solos, it's just the scrapes. Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of like had these ideas, I think, in a notebook, and we kind of were trying to stick to the concept of them. And it kind of made for a real cool, distinct.
There's a lot of vocals
like
on that one. That's like kind of not just sound bites, but like more like vocal bits.
Right. Right. Yeah. And we kind of.
What is that? Sorry. You know what I'm talking about.
I think we did kind of figure out a way to record Brian's voice that has always kind of worked.
Yeah.
But we kind of figured it out on that record. And the way we do it, like if you listen to Man or Astro-Man records, is a lot of times like we'll do a vocal take and have a keeper take, but will have kind of figured out the words or gotten it down, doing a couple like just kind of guide takes for us to like when we play the instrumental music.
Yeah, just working through it.
Yeah, and just there just be these scratch vocals there, but a lot of times you'll hear something a little off. Like most of the times we'll record two keeper takes and hard pan them to the right and left, but then you'll sometimes hear like a word that's off, or sometimes it'll even be the wrong word underneath the other words, or not synced up right. And a lot of times we'll like mix in little cool bits of his scratch vocals, and it kind of gives it this like to me it gives it this kind of neurotic kind of feel that works for his voice really well. And I think we kind of like figured out a way that we felt more confident doing vocals, because we figured out a way to use Brian's voice that really expressed what he wanted to do with lyrics and the sound of the band and everything. So I think that's what kind of why we started doing more vocals after that. It's just kind of we kind of discovered a way to make it sound good, which is 90% of being in a band. It's figuring out like, how can I make this guitar sound good, or how does this drum beat sound good, or what one sound does this weird little keyboard make that will be useful on a record. So it was just that kind of thing.
Yeah, keeping that functionality.
Right.
So then, and of course, the album after that is made from Technetium, which is there's some cool stuff there. Like Low Bat was a very different kind of song at the time for you guys. You're kind of exploring some more there.
Yeah, there's that was a song where like one of the guitars is played with that back to basics sampler. Like it was Brian doing his original guitar, doing guitar parts, but then we sampled them and played them with a sampler, so it kind of had this very on-off robotic kind of like feel that doesn't quite sound like how somebody would naturally play a guitar.
Right. It sounds a little like robotic or just not human.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like somebody strumming a guitar. And that recording sounds good. Actually we're recording a new record right now, and I've done some mastering for some of it already, and like that record and that song in particular, like I think John Golden, who's always amazing, mastered that record, but it sounds really good, and I've kind of used it as a like A/B shootout for how I'm mastering the new stuff, and it's hard to get that. I don't know what it is, but that came out really. That recording's really good, and it doesn't have too much flubby low end. And that's what I always fight in mass. God, I'm being so boring talking about audio. Anyway,
no, you'd be surprised with people that listen to this show.
Yeah, let's move on.
There's a balance. Some people want the Salisbury steak TV dinner warmers. Some people want like the mastering banal minutia.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. But like, we can go back to talking about TVs or on the stage or whatever. I don't. Sorry, I was talking about mastering.
No, that's right. So that's
record,
another. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but that record's a super dark record.
It's a very dark record. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
It's a very bleak time for our band. And, you know, when we had just kind of it was kind of sad for me in a way, because it was when we were like kind of like starting to finally have things pay off. I'm not talking monetarily, but like where we were kind of.
You've planted seeds, and then some of them grow.
Getting to be bigger, and like getting to do what we wanted to do, and like not having to worry about having other jobs and like or anything like that, and touring and doing it full time, and like this is our band. But we had not, because we were young, we weren't smart enough to know when to stop, and we would just say yes to everything, and that's like, and they'll tell you it's 99% my fault for just like pushing. But we had toured straight for 4 years at that point, and when we weren't touring, we were in the studio, and we were kind of finally really found our voice more than ever, probably playing better than we ever had, but we were just like a broken machine. In that record, for like, you know, a dumb band like Man or Astro-Man playing dumb music in this whatever surf music kind of thing, it's kind of an emotional record for me to listen to, just knowing the process of it. It was a real, like I said, we were a real broken machine at that point. Had a lot of just psychological road damage, I think.
Well, and there were, you know, things that changed as well.
Yeah. Hey, good times with Man or Astro-Man.
Yeah. Which, you know, fences broken, now mended, etc.
Yeah. But we got through it. I didn't think we were going to finish that record, but we did. And it's a good record. I can't believe it. I don't know why. It's good.
No, it still holds up. Still holds up for sure. So I realize we're kind of running low on time here. I do want to talk briefly about EVIAC. We might have to just do
lightning round.
A second part. Yeah. Hit me with EVIAC.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, you mean lightning round this shit?
Yeah. Let's lightning round it. Yeah.
Okay, but all right. Tell me it's go time, and I'll do it.
Okay, ready, go. EVIAC.
No, you got to say it's go time.
Oh, it's go time.
Okay, so because we were kind of a broken machine at that point, we had decided to split ways with Starcrunch, and he started to split ways with us. We were working on a lot of music for the Cartoon Network and things at that point, so we kind of let him do that stuff. He did the theme song to the Jimmy Neutron, and we did the clone tours during that time where we got other bands to tour like us, all female version, all male version, and us. One month we did 90 shows in a month with the three bands. And then we kind of did what people call Man or Astro-Man 2.0, where two of the clone members started playing with us, and we put out a record called EVIAC, which was probably the coolest stage design we had. We had these giant supercomputers,
Tesla coil, that
were on stage with us. That were, you know, actually the influence for those was Neil Young's giant Fender amps and that Rust Never Sleeps tour, that concert. Anyway, that the Jawas were on stage. Check it out if you haven't. But anyway, and we were really good live then, I thought, and we were playing really big places. But But that record's really uneven. It was the first record I pretty much completely mixed by myself, and there's some like over EQing, and the material kind of half sounds like we're trying to be the old band and half trying to sound like. But the design is really a great record design, and there are good things about that record. And that was the first record with a 2.0 band, and then we did another record after that called
Spectrum of Infinite Scale.
Correct. And that's a really kind of weird, dubby, proggy, experimental record that should not have really worked. And a lot of people didn't like it, but I'm really proud of that record. So, and that's all that matters.
Exactly.
It's not like, it's not like it was like, oh man, we didn't win a Grammy this time. Oh well, but it was, we kind of figured out what that version of the band was with that record, and it was a pretty weird thing, but I thought that's a cool record.
DEFCON 4 5 4 3 2 1.
Okay, yeah, and that was like in 2006. Touch and Go had their 25th anniversary. We honestly I don't think the three of us had talked for a while, but because Corey Rusk, who runs Touch and Go, and the people at Touch and Go were so amazing to us, and we owe our lives to in so many incalculable ways, we agreed that we would play the Touch and Go 25th anniversary, and it was really fun. We had a great time, and then I forget what came up that we started talking again in 2010, and we got in a room one time. I was real nervous, probably like anybody that goes through this. And by the way, I don't call it reunion. I call it a reenactment. I think it's a little more demeaning that way. So we got together to do our reenactment years, and it was weird. It just like, it still we kind of sounded like we always sound, kind of noisy and weird and loud in a room. And we told the same stupid jokes that we've been telling each other since we were like just out of high school. And it was fun. And it was fun not having the pressure of like having to be a real band, and we have to get it out before South by Southwest, and
right.
CMJ needs a track for their CD, and there's a deadline. And it kind of became what it originally was again, which was kind of like our high school garage band that we just started for no other reason than to have fun. So, and then we did that record with Steve, and it, like a lot of it's just live with Samantha, and who is like a full member now of our band, Ivana Nova, and who's been in longer than any other fourth member. The four of us, probably 70% of that's just us playing live in the A room at Steve's studio in Chicago at Electrical. So yeah, it was a fun record to make. I will put an asterisk by that though. There's like 2 or 3 songs that like took us so much time to record because we were like we were doing a few really unconventional things. Like one song's like driven by 2 Mellotron parts and things like that.
Right.
Some of that stuff, like we recorded like 90 or 80% of the record in like 5 days, and then we recorded 3 songs in 2 weeks. That's kind of how it went down.
Feast or famine, as they say, right?
Right. But I thought that record was good. If you like the band, like I'm not comparing this to like a good band, but like, I mean, it's like, if you like our band, I thought that was a good, like, I would say it's at least like, don't call it a comeback record.
No, it's definitely solid. It's definitely solid.
But it's kind of made it hard making this one, honestly, I think, because it's like, I've gone back and listened to it a few times. I'm like, I hope this new stuff is as good as that record, because then it's going to be like, whoa, they were better and now they suck.
Well, I don't think that's the case at all. I think, in fact, you guys still ruled it very hard, and amazingly, I got to see you this year, which seems really surreal. Brian, if you can hang out just for a second, I gotta close off the live stream here. Yeah, we got another show coming up, but I got one more thing I want to talk to you. I guess it'll have to be a bonus thing.
Okay, yeah.
If you're good, it won't take too long.
That's what they do on Jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly. So. The bonus show is actually pretty. I really wanted to get into the Clone Tour because I have a lot of Clone Tour. Stuff. But before we do that, what I was going to say this is that an anonymous bandmate wanted to know, why'd you get that sticky on you?
Yeah. Wait, who knows that story?
Here's a hint.
That's
You
so
already
weird. Yeah.
invoked the name.
Yeah. But yeah, that God, it's really weird. Yeah, that happened to me in a Walmart one night where this kid put peanut butter all over his crotch. That's the story you're talking about, right?
I guess this is intel I'm getting from my sources, which this was.
Are we? Is this going to be a bonus bit?
This will be. Yeah. But this will be in the podcast.
No, I was in a Walmart late one night, one of those that stay open all night, which is like the best time to go to a crappy place like that when there's no other humans around.
Right. And
there was this little kid that was like, should not have been up that late by, my standards of parenting when I have no kids. So, but all of a sudden I hear this woman scream and she goes, Obadiah. And that, like, this kid's name was Obadiah. So you can't get more biblical than that. She goes, why'd you get that sticky all over you? And the kid had opened up a thing of like Jiffy peanut butter and like figured out it got all over his hands and figured out he couldn't get it off. And then he had just wiped it right in the middle between his legs all over his crotch. Just like 8-year-old kids got like covered, like a crotch covered in peanut butter. And his name's Obadiah. And his mom says, like, not why'd you get a substance that is sticky all over you? She said the adjective as the noun, like, why'd you get that sticky all over you? And that's basically, like, in a nutshell, what living in Alabama is like.
Right, exactly. Okay, that's classic. Yeah. So thank you to friend of the show and Man member Ivana Nova for that tidbit, because I would never have thought of doing that.
Well, yeah, if she listens to this, tell her I said salad. Nobody will understand that except for her. So I'm communicating back with her.
Exactly.
Salad?
In jokes only. It's almost like you're on tour again. It's great.
I know, right? Exactly.
So, Brian, this has been great, man. Thank you so much for doing it. If you ever want to come back,
do we have 1 minute to do an Ivana Nova impression?
Yeah, hell yes, we do. Of course we do. Yes.
Okay. So she's gonna be pissed that I'm calling her out on this. But it's something that is so charming, and I love that she does. First of all, she rocks, and she's like easily the best member of the band, and she's put a lot of great life in the band. And it's kind of, having like a kick-ass woman in our band has kind of changed our dynamic. I love her to death.
She's a powerhouse. She player, as a person, all around powerhouse.
Yeah, she's superb in all ways, but she does this thing, and like if we're in the back of a van or where we're traveling in, and if she thinks the driver or any of whoever's driving is going the wrong way, she'll start questioning things under her breath. She'll be like, I don't know, is this really the right way? Sun checks at 5. I don't think we're gonna make it. I mean, if he doesn't, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we can go around about. So, do you know where we're going now? And I don't think I've ever let her know that I realize that she does that. So hopefully she won't listen to this, but that's my Ivana Nova impression.
Well, I had a bandmate that used to do the same thing too, and I have a thing that I can't stand backseat drivers. I can be kind of a prick about it, or at least I used to be as a younger man.
Right.
Of course, I'm much more evolved now. That's pretty funny. Hopefully she's not.
Yeah,
we love Sam, Ivana. We love Ivana Nova, and we speak her name for sure.
Yeah, she's the best. I hope one day I can play drums like she plays guitar and rocks out on stage, but it will never happen.
So, like, last thing, and this is actually usually how I close the show out, and it's a only can question I ever ask anyone. You can kind of interpret it however you like. But why do you do what you do?
I will say, like, I wanted to say we didn't have a choice, but I guess we did. I mean, it's just the insanity of life. It's weird being married to something that we started when we were 19, but it also reflects who we are and who we kind of still are in a way where, Brian Starcrunch is like very into his instrument, the way guitar sound, and writing cool songs and making cool noises. And Rob, who's Coco, was always into making weird devices, and I was always into like, you know, just kind of the machinery of it and the pop culture and pushing things forward and getting to travel around the world. And, you know, so in a way it kind of reflects, for better or worse, you know, who we are as people. And it's just kind of a vehicle for us to get to do all the things we loved. And, you know, we never really made sense as a band, as individuals. Like, you know, I know every band says this, but we really are so different, and we all have very different skill sets. But at the same, you know, you get some bands that are like good because they're like that kind of Zeppelin machine of just the you know, the orcs coming over the hill kind of thing to like, and we're not that band. I mean, if you're going to use like classic rock idioms, like we've always been a Who type band where like all four of us are working against each other, competing for attention on stage.
Sure. Yeah.
And, but sometimes in weird, you know, sometimes that can really make for really magical shows when it works. And I think we're like, you know, at least like, I think we're like 9 times out of 10, at least a B+. But then the cool thing about our band is we'll get a D- every once in a while. So just like, just so you like, we're not one of these like,
just so you don't put on airs
that like, that like never has a bad show. Like we'll have one that's like so bad, like we'll like hang our heads and, you know, not talk to each other for the rest of the night.
Oh.
But it keeps it interesting, because you may get a shitty show, you know, keeps you guessing.
Well, as I think I mentioned, you were in the few bands that I can just drag people out to that have never heard the band or engaged with it in any way, and they can come away not only having had a good time, but come away as fans. And just to kind of bring that home, I did that in February with someone who, a friend of mine who just was not familiar at all somehow, which is crazy because it's like, didn't you play in bands? How do you not know Man or Astro-Man? Okay, whatever. But he loved it.
Right.
Like it's still after all these years,
cool.
he loved every part of it. He's like, they were fantastic. So just wanted to throw that out there that these D+ shows that you mentioned, never saw one.
Right. Well, you know what? I'll say this about our band, and I'll just encapsulate the whole thing about our band in this sentence. We're better than Everclear.
And with that note,
yeah,
Brian, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. This was really enjoyable, and you forced me to have like scary childhood memories that I never thought I'd have to think about again. But it was awesome. You're a great interviewer, and love your show, and we'll continue on.
Let's do it again sometime.
Round.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can just
cool. I'm free tomorrow morning if you're around.
I was gonna say it could be the spectrum of finite scale to the infinite scale.
Yeah, right.
Well, I would love to have you on anytime, man. It's a pleasure.
Okay,
seriously.
well, be good, stay safe, and keep doing what you're doing.
All right, brother. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
There he goes, Brian Teasley. That was awesome. Let's hear some Man or Astro-Man. Fuck yeah.
All right, shut up. We're going into the lightning bonus round.
Lightning bonus round. Here we go. We're gonna finish this shit up.
I go to Indianapolis every year to see the Indy 500. I go there with friends to drive and race. Every year when they go there to qualify, they usually have to go as fast as they possibly can to get a front row position. They put nitro in their cars sometimes instead of the fuel that's intended to be in the cars, so that their cars will go faster. And they do, for 5 or 10 laps. And then they blow all the hell.
right, specify gravity. It's off of the 1000X EP, or 10-inch. How you wanna phrase it? 10-inch, whatever. And before that, we had Nitrous Burnout. That was the live version, live transmissions from Uranus. Specifically chose that one because the lightning bonus round talk-up happened right before there. Brian Teasley, everybody. Wow, what a cool guy. Yeah, one of my favorite bands for a very long time, and still up there. So that was an honor. I hope you guys enjoyed that half as much as I did. Saturn. That's the venue. You can find all stuff Man or Astro-Man, I don't know, on the internet. It's on this thing called the internet. Maybe you've heard of it. But yeah, Saturn, Birmingham, Alabama. It's SaturnBirmingham.com. Man or Astro-Man's on all the things you might think that they might be on. Actually, some of the things that you might think they're on. They're easy to find. And you can listen to all the records and stuff. You know, all the places that you might hear music.
Anyone within the sound of my voice.
Name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so much for listening to it. Show airs on Radio Nope. RadioNope.com.
50,000 watts of power.
Usually Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific.
Ionize the air.
ProtonicReversal.com for the archives. Always free. $1 a month. Patreon.com/ProtonicReversal for early access.
This microphone.
No ads, no sponsors, no kidding.
Sound into electricity.
2020 Best Of Show coming up next.
Can you hear me now?
Stay tuned.
Out on Route
Stay safe out there.
Dark and lonely.
And take it easy.
I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl! It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now?